Hey everyone, my name is Wedge and we're back from an insane weekend at PAX East. There are a ton of spoilers to go over from this past weekend and today. We're going to split them up into two videos. And so you can find today's spoilers, we're going to link you to that video at the end of this one. Normally we start with white cards, but man, a Confluence is just too awesome not to talk about right now. You can tap this land and pay 1 life to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. This card is amazing. It's a functionally better version of City of Brass since it only hurts you when you tap it for mana, not just whenever it taps. I actually got to talk to the developers at PAX East about why they chose to print Mana Confluence now. The reason? Block constructed. The format needed more versatile mana bases for 3-colored decks. They did a lot of internal play testing and found that there wasn't enough variety in the format. Besides this, the card is just great. There are decks across all formats playing City of Brass wherever it's legal. This will see play forever. Next up, we have launched the Fleet, a 1 white mana sorcery with Strive for 1. Until end of turn, any number of target creatures each gain. Whenever this creature attacks, put a 1/1 white soldier creature token onto the battlefield and attacking. This card is great for white weenies / heroic strategies. The key thing here is that the Strive cost is 1 colorless, so you aren't hurt for playing 2-color aggro decks. This is definitely a constructed playable card. Accelerates your clock and for a decent mana cost. This is a solid card. If you play an aggro deck with white in it, this is worth testing with. Hypnotic Siren is 1 blue mana for a 1/1 enchantment creature with Bestow 7. It has flying and you control enchanted creature. This is a bomb and limited. All control enchanted creature effects are strong for drafting and sealed. You might think that this is a bit too expensive, but Spirit Away also costs 7 mana, and that thing was bonkers. It's also nice that you can play this as a 1/1 flyer for 1 if you really need to. It's pretty versatile, it's great for limited. This card is easily one of my favorites spoiled so far. Cure's Dismissal is a 1 blue mana instant with Strive for 1 additional blue mana for each target. Return any number of target enchantments to their owner's hands. In a set and block filled with a ridiculous amount of enchantments, this card can be really powerful. Just look at Journey into Nyx. It has an enchantment-specific mechanic in Constellation, and continues using an additional enchantment-based mechanic in Bestow. This card is a limited bomb, and I could easily see this on the sideboard in Standard against some aggressive Aura decks. It's really cheap for the power you're getting. Polymorph Rush is 3 mana for an instant with Strive that costs 2 more to cast for each target beyond the first. You choose any creature on the battlefield. Any number of target creatures you control each become a copy of that creature until end of turn. First things first, it doesn't target, which means that it can choose hexproof and shroud creatures. It's very cool. This is a fun commander card and decent in limited. My favorite part about this card is that with Biovisionary, it's beyond hysterical. Granted, that deck may be a little slow, but the synergy is just too good to ignore. Someone has to make this work. This card has some really interesting artwork, not to mention amusing text. King Makar the Gold Cursed is 2 colorless and 2 black for a legendary 2/3 creature with Inspired. Whenever he becomes untapped, Guild. Seriously though, he does exactly what Guild does whenever he untaps. Getting to exile a creature and get some free mana is pretty awesome. Exile effects are always really powerful, and this one happens by simply untapping. Using something like Springleaf Drum or Hidden Strings is just great with this. A monster in both Commander and Limited, I can see people trying to make this Standard playable. I'm not sure it's possible right now, but in the future, who knows? Ritual of the Returned is 4 mana for an instant. Exile target creature card from your graveyard. Put a black zombie creature token on the battlefield with power equal to the exiled card's power and its toughness equal to the exiled card's toughness. So basically, if you exile a Blood Baron of Escopa, the black zombie will be a 4/4. I really like this card. It gives your creatures good value once they're dead at instant speed. Not only that, but as long as the power and toughness are formidable enough, you might not miss their abilities. This is a great limited card, but since both Whip of Erebos and Rescue from the Underworld exist, I don't think there's room in Standard for this right now, unless a Reanimator deck shows up that wants 4 more Reanimator spells, because if that happens, go for it, that's nutty. Worst Fears is 8 mana for a sorcery that lets you control target player during that player's next turn. This is a sorcery speed version of Mindslaver. Commander is pretty much where I'm at with this. It's super expensive, so any other format playing this would be a bit hard pressed to afford it. Plus Tron already has Mindslaver. Next! Our only red card spoiled this weekend was Forge Born Ori ads. 2 colorless and 2 red for a 4/2 enchantment creature nymph with Constellation. Whenever it or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, it deals 1 damage to target creature or player. I don't think this card's outright bad. The problem is that outside limited has to compete with Fnatica Mogus in any deck running red. To be fair, if you make an aura-based strategy, it could fit in, but this is a pretty late drop considering the amount of aggression I'm sure you want to have. Also, this in Gift of Immortality, it's just cheeky. Hydra Broodmaster is 6 mana for a 7/7 Hydra with Monstrosity X for double X and 1 green. When Hydra Broodmaster becomes Monstrous, put XXX green Hydra creature tokens on the battlefield. Because Polymorph didn't have enough X's in its text box, Hydra Broodmaster had to up the ante. It doesn't have trample, which is super disappointing, but it is outrageously fat and does create a bunch of dudes if you have the mana for it. Granted, this is meant to be a late game limited, casual, and commander card. I'd love a super ramp deck that just went nuts with Hydras. How cool would that be? Ferrisban Warchief is 4 mana for a 3/3 Vigilance Trample Centaur Warrior. Other Centaur creatures you control get +1/+1 and have Vigilance and Trample. Centaur Lord? Serious? This is insane. Someone build a Minotaur tribal deck and a Centaur tribal deck, put in Mogus and Iroas, then just bash each other in the face until one of you goes unconscious. Or don't do that. That seems dangerous. Anyway, the card's hilarious. Lords are always interesting. It'll be used in casual and commander for sure. Depending on what else we see from this set, it could be a cool pick for limited. I'd love to see Centaurs in standard, but this is the first real support we've seen for them. Little late, Wizards! Athreos God of Passage is 1 colorless, 1 white, and 1 black for a 5/4 indestructible legendary enchantment creature god. Whenever another creature you own dies, return it to your hand unless target opponent pays 3 life. This is the god card a lot of people have been waiting for. White-black humans, welcome to Tier 1. Cartel Aristocrat, Zathra Necromancer, add in some Tormented Hero, Soldier of the Pantheon, Fable the Hero even, and you just get a disgusting deck with a ton of late game gas. They'll never be able to keep paying 3 life over and over again. No deck can sustain like that right now. Supreme Verdicts suddenly become really, really sad. Standard isn't even the only place this card is good. Modern decks like Birthing Pod, Black-White Tokens, and Esper Fairies are all insanely good with this card. They all put a ton of creatures out that have a lot of value. These creatures also tend to die. A lot. Having that extra late game threat is insane, especially in something like Birthing Pod. The value is just, it's ridiculous. Athreos is crazy. I usually don't hype up cards this much, but this guy has me swooning. It's real bad, guys. It almost makes me want to play an aggro deck. That's how you know it's good, when a control player wants to play aggro. Someone help me. Well, that does it for this past weekend's spoilers. There are some crazy good cards in this bunch. Athreos is obviously ridiculous, and I might start worshipping him myself. What cards are you guys most excited for? The flavor in this set is overwhelmingly amazing right now. I'm super excited for what the rest of the week has in store. Remember to subscribe below for the latest and most reliable journey into Nick's spoiler information you could ever need. This is the Mana Source. I'm Wedge. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.